So I'm going to share my screen and show you something. So this is available on my website. I call it Absentee Ownership in America. Marxists call this financialization. Libertarians call this socialized risk and private returns. So what happened in 1914, you get the US income tax and the central bank starts, 1914. Some people might say that the central bank is a form of crony capitalism, because at the same time the income tax and the central bank are created, you can write off debt payments on the income tax. So, and then you can write off debt payments on the income tax. So what that does is that encourages debt creation, right? That encourages debt capitalization over equity capitalization. So Marxists today are calling that managerial capitalism, because the equity percentage of a firm's capitalization is a lot less than the debt capitalization, meaning the equity holders have less interest in overseeing what's going on at the firm, because the debt portion of capitalization is so much greater than the equity capitalization.
What does it mean writing off the trust payments? Does that mean they don't pay it at all?
Yeah, I'm going to show you that. I've got an accounting example of what that means. So equity is taxed twice and debt is a write-off. So you have a encouragement of debt creation. And that the encouragement of debt creation also influences the size of the firm. Right? If you can write off debt, then on the income tax, then you're going to have, that encourages firms to grow large. And the larger the firm is, and we'll look at, the less efficient it is. And we'll look at that. So the reason that libertarians call this idea of financialization, socialized risk, and private returns is because, as we've talked about, corporatism. Certain firms get bailed out. When you have huge debt capitalization, that means the economy is much more sensitive to interest rate movements. So when you have an active monetary policy and financialization, you don't get the creative destruction of the economy when bad assets should go bankrupt because they get bailed out. So during the good times, the managers with their stock options get a lot of returns, and during the bad times, the well-connected firms get bailed out. So that's called socialized risk and private returns. So the tax code has encouraged the buildup of debt in the economy instead of the buildup of equity. This prioritization of debt over equity means that a management class has evolved who manages large public corporations. This class sell debt-based financial instruments. So like I said, the housing boom and bust was based on mortgage-backed bonds that banks and firms sold each other for fees. So you can create these debt-based instruments, write off the debt on the tax code, and sell them to each other and create fees. So banks make their money not on buy low, sell high interest rates. They make their money on fees. So the reason that you get this absentee ownership, So at the beginning of the housing boom, the debt to equity ratios were 10 to 1. And by the end of the housing boom, the debt to equity ratios were 20 to 1. So that's an example of the financialization of the economy. So here's why debt is so here's a financial statement of a firm, just firm X. They've got 100 in revenue, 70 expenses, gross profit of 30. Then they've paid, due to their debt capitalization, they've paid $10 of debt interest to the bondholders, and they can write that off prior to taxes. So then they say, let's say they pay taxes, they have 14 after profit, they retain 4 of it and then give 10. So now they're paying taxes on their equity. The firm is paying taxes on their equity after writing off the debt. Then they distribute those equity earnings to individuals who then pay income tax again for their dividends that they earn. So this creates financialization, absentee ownership, and periodic financial crises.
Is that considered double taxation?
Double taxation on equity and write-off of debt creates firms which are too large because of the debt write-off, which then makes, and when the economy is very debt-oriented, it's more susceptible to interest rate changes.
It's kind of like a capital gains tax, right?
Capital gains tax is another form of equity taxation. Exactly.